بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. And before that, we enter for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. So inshallah we will enter into Adab in Sulukil Murid as usual. And we are at chapter number 10 of the book. So inshallah we will return to where we have stopped in our last lesson. So far I believe we have skipped a few lessons because due to some issues that we have with the streaming recently. So inshallah we will begin today with the third paragraph in this chapter, where Al-Imam Al-Haddad is speaking about how to rebuke the self from being lazy in obedience and sway towards disobedience. So basically this is a chapter where Al-Imam Al-Haddad speaks about how any kind of person be motivated and drive himself towards the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we mentioned the first two paragraphs that is mentioned, and one of the thing is to ponder upon the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also to remind ourselves about our obligations and about the punishments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he mentioned, beware that you do not fall into the category of those who strayed and belittle matters concerning the eternal garden and the hellfire, whereby one should revere the issues concerned that Allah and His Messenger have hold in esteem. So this is important as a Muslim, and we have always have to remind ourselves about our purpose in life, and to remind ourselves about the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has blessed us with, and likewise it is important for us to ponder upon our shortcomings and upon the sins that we have committed, and to ponder upon the acts of obedience and the shortcomings that we have while performing any acts of obedience. So it is important for us to do muhasabah. So here Al-Imam Al-Haddad speaks about importance of muhasabah, importance of tafakkur. We mentioned also the importance of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these are basically nutrition for our soul. So it is important as a Muslim that we have our daily invocations, and we mentioned many a times that it is important for us to have our daily invocations. So we must recite Baqiyatus Salihat, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Likewise istighfar, astaghfirullah al-azim, astaghfirullah al-azim, astaghfirullah al-azim. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah make this lesson as a reason that Allah forgive our sins zahiran and batinan, and may Allah answer our prayers and protect us from all trials and difficulties in dunya and akhirah. Ameen ya rabbal alameen. I just need to check my sound. Hopefully there is no issues, because sometimes I continue to speak, but the problem is sometimes sometimes there is no sound. Ala kulli hal, inshallah khair. So then Imam Al-Haddad mentioned, he said, beware that you do not fall into the category of those who strayed and belittle matters concerning the eternal garden. And basically they are people who belittle and who ridicule the affairs of akhirah, the affairs of al-akhirah. Why? Because this is a lack of iman. And when a person has a lack of faith, what happens? He starts to have doubts on the afterlife, and after life of this dunya. So when it comes to Yawm al-Qiyamah, what happens during Hisab, what happens during the reckoning, what happens in Jannah and Nar. So when a person has a weak faith in Islam, they begin to have doubt and they begin to belittle. So belittling concerning any matters of the religion is due to the lack of faith. So Al-Imam Al-Haddad mentioned, beware that you do not fall into this category. The category of those who are away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have lack of iman and who belittles the tenets of faith, because this will lead to na'udzubillah min zalik serious consequences. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this calamity. Then he mentioned, thus you should act only for the sake of Allah, for He is your Lord and you are His slave. Ask Him to let you enter His garden and seek protection from His fire through His grace and mercy. So it is important that we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is basically what he's saying. It is important that always we make dua that Allah save us from the hellfire, that Allah forgive our sins, that Allah make us enter the Jannah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with His mercy and His pleasure. So it is important that always when we perform any acts of obedience, we must always understand that it is Allah who blessed me with the ability and the tawfiq and the guidance that I'm able to perform that act of obedience. And when we perform the act of disobedience, we straight away ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. May Allah forgive our sins, and we promise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will not go back into the sins that we have done. So this is the kind of resolution, the renewal of tawbah, which we mentioned many a time. So dua is important, and also the understanding that we enter Jannah by the mercy of Allah. It is by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the person can enter Jannah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punish a person by His justice. So there is no such thing as injustice with regard to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah. The aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah, we believe that human beings enter Jannah by the grace of Allah. What is the meaning? Meaning Allah is not obliged to make a person enter Jannah. Allah is not obliged to make a person enter Jannah, because nothing can make obligatory upon Allah. That is impossible, because that is a weakness. And if something it can be overpowered, meaning He possesses weakness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possesses perfect attributes. So we cannot ascribe any form of characteristic that is of weakness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Al-Imam Al-Haddad here is speaking about the aqidah of the Sunnah in reality. So he said, from His fire through His grace and mercy. We ask Allah through His grace and mercy for us to enter Jannah and save us from the hellfire. And this is not obliged upon Allah, but it is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the devil, shaitan, may Allah curse be upon him, whisper to you that Allah the Exalted has no need of you and your deeds, that neither your submission will benefit him nor rebellion harms him, then reply to him that he is correct. However, it is what is in need of the it is I who is in need of the graces of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the good deeds. So shaitan, one of the ways to delude any human beings is to tell any human beings that there is no point of you making ibadah to Allah, because at the end of the day Allah is not in need of your ibadah. Allah is not in need of your ibadah. So why are you making any ibadah in the first place? So the way I need to respond to this whispers of the devil, la'natullahi alayh, is by saying this is a true statement, but the second part of the statement, why is the need of us making ibadah to Allah? We are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are showing our servanthood towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by obeying Him, by fulfilling the commandments. So it is a display of servanthood, and this is compulsory upon us. So do not fall into the trap of shaitan by removing ourselves from acts of obedience, by this kind of understanding that Allah is not in need of ibadah. Yes, Allah is not in need of ibadah, but Allah commanded us to do ibadah. So the ibadah is a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are obliged to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His commandments, even though He is not in need of our ibadah. So we must make this differentiation between the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is not in need of anything. At the same time, we say that Allah commanded us to do some things, and we are obliged to perform those commandments and refrain from those prohibitions. And this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to us we call it the servanthood, and it is to display our ubudiyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what my Lord and He has said to me in the noble book by the tongue of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Peace and be upon him. If he, shaitan, may Allah curse and be upon him, then says to you, indeed, if Allah has determined taqdir that you are among the fortunate, then you will be inevitably end up in the garden, whether you are those who submit or rebel against him. If Allah has determined that you are among the unfortunate, you will end up in the hellfire, even if you are obedient. This is another kind of whispers of the shaitan. Shaitan, and he tells the person that do not worry about your ibadah, even if you don't perform ibadah. If Allah has ordained that you will enter Jannah, you will enter Jannah despite any of you not performing any ibadah. So this is one of the tricks of shaitan. So that is why all these things are related to aqidah. So that is why it is important, incumbent upon a Muslim to study his aqidah to a certain degree, that he is able to protect himself from the whispers of shaitan. So when a person has the profound understanding of the subject of aqidah, then we will understand about the issue of al-qada wal-qadar. And we have a topic in aqidah that speaks about the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ordainment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-qada wal-qadar. So again, we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained everything before He created everything. That is the reality. Allah knows that you are going to believe. Allah knows that you are going to pray or not pray. Everything is within the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, everything is within knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, Allah bless us with the ability to make the choice. So Allah bless human beings with this ability that human beings are able to make the choice, whether he wants to believe or he does not want to believe, whether he wants to pray or he does not want to pray. So it is by the choice that human beings makes, and Allah knows best, that Allah ordained what you call it, the occurrence of that intention, or the occurrence of that choice, and we are responsible for our actions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reckon us in Yawm al-Qiyamah based on those actions, because those actions are a result of our intentions. So we mentioned this last time. I hope there is no issue for those who are following. Then he mentioned if Allah has determined that you are among the unfortunate, you will end up in the hellfire even if you are obedient. So this one again one of the whispers of shaitan. The shaitan will tell you that if Allah ordained you enter hellfire, then even you are obedient to Allah, you still enter into the hellfire. So we must be careful. This is very dangerous. Whispers of shaitan can destroy people, and this is what is happening. So we can save ourselves. Point number one, is by having the knowledge. So that is why shaitan, it's difficult upon shaitan to convince a person who is knowledgeable. Easy for him to confuse an ignorant person. Point number two, this point number one. Point one is knowledge. Point number two, is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the weapons of the mu'min is zikrullah, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah has determined you are among the unfortunate, you will end up in the fire, even if you are obedient. Do not be taken in what the shaitan say. Ignore him. This is Imam al-Haddad mentioned. Do not be influenced by the whispers of shaitan. This is so because the decree for future events is hidden. It is not obvious to him. Only Allah knows, and none of His creation has anything to know or to do with it. At the end of the day, Allah knows, and nobody knows what Allah knows, and we do not know what is our final abode, and we do not know what is going to happen. So we have to put in any efforts and put in our intentions and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua that Allah bless us with His mercy and Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq and hidayah. So inshallah for Adab and Sulukul Murid, and we will stop here, and inshallah we will enter into Muqaddimah Hadramiyah. So in Muqaddimah Hadramiyah we are still in the chapter of prayers.